All right, hello everybody. It's Johnny, and we are going to talk a little bit about the EasyCap 282 284 again. A lot of questions on my video that I put up last year, so hopefully I can clear up some of those questions. A lot of the same questions kind of came up. So let's get started with something really basic that will help a lot of the problems. So the first thing that we'll want to do is make sure that our EasyCap 282/284 is at the most recent firmware, and we can do that by checking on the website on what they have. So let's pull that up. So this is the easycap.com article read 385. All I really did was I Googled EasyCap 284 and latest drivers, and this came up. So you could download it from here. What I did was I just scrolled down and I looked through and what problems it was creating. And I noticed that a lot of the problems that I had were all solved over time. So for example, we had split recorded files. I don't know the split, but we had split recorded files, and what it was doing was it was recording 2 minutes, stopping, creating a new file, another 2 minutes, stopping, and so on and so forth. A problem that created was you would have files being stopped and started, and you would have dropped frames, or you'd have corrupted frames because of it. So it's good to know they solved that. I actually updated the firmware of mine to the wrong model. I had gone with like EasyCap 280 or 282 or something like that, and I had a black screen. So that's one of the questions that I had. They had a black screen and they didn't know how to fix it. Usually a firmware upgrade will fix that. So right now, the most recent one is May 23rd, 2018. So that was just like a month ago. It's July 7 today. So all you have to do is you download it, open it up. I've downloaded it a couple times, but so you open up the file. It's a Jedi.image, and you extract it. I have it right here, so I'm going to replace the file. Fine. And then we're going to open up an SD card, which I have right here. I'm going to delete the one that I have on there, and I will show you what kind of card I'm using. So I am using a SanDisk 8GB SDHC card into a little adapter dongle thing, 3.0, and I'm going to plug it in. And I will make myself small again. So you'll pull up your SD card, and you'll take that same Jedi image and just move it. Small file, 792 kilobytes. So it'll be done before you know it. So we'll close that out. We'll go ahead and eject that 8GB SD. And then we'll take it off and plug it and unplug the power to our AGPTek. And then we'll install the USB. And then we're going to insert the power. What's going to happen is you will see the red light go on. That's only usually when you're recording, but what it's doing is it's rewriting the firmware that's on the actual machine, so don't touch it. According to the website, it says give it 10 to 20 seconds. So I think it's already been 10 seconds or 20 seconds. I'll still wait an extra 5 seconds. You can do this, by the way, with the SD card alone into the slot, and that'll be just as easy. So I think enough time has passed. It says also on the website that the green HDMI signal is supposed to illuminate and just stay For me, it didn't. So I'll wait an extra 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to take this out, and it says that you can verify that this has been done properly by plugging this back into your PC. So let's do that. So my display capture is still on. And when we pull up our SD card, it says that it should be empty, and perfect, it is empty. So it updated properly. Let's go ahead and plug in our power to the AGPTek. Make sure everything's working. Green, HDMI illuminated. I have it plugged in right now to an SNES Classic. And it's running perfectly. I don't know if you saw it, but it said 720p, 60 hertz. So perfect. Great. So on to the next thing. 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So perfect. So it actually does exceed the old kind of cap of the 2 minutes and then splitting it into separate files. So let's go ahead and open this up in VLC because we want to check one of two or a couple things here. And let's see. All right, so here's the video. It's running. Everything looks pretty smooth. I'll show you. Pretty vibrant colors. I wouldn't complain if I was watching this on YouTube. And yeah, it doesn't look bad. I'm not seeing any blurs. But then again, this is, you know, an SNES Classic, so the resolution is a lot better. But it also, that's HDMI and not the RCA. So one thing I wanted to also check while we're in here is to check to see some of the information on this video. So I wanted to check the information on here to see if it would tell us what the bit rate is. It is telling us that the frame rate is 60 frames per second. Resolution is 1280 by 720. Actually, it's 738 here. That's fine. 4800 hertz for the sample rate. And codec is H.264. Data size. So it's recording at, what is that? That can't be 133 megabytes per second. No, sorry. I am stupid. So it is showing as 17 megabytes per second. Perfect, right? That's very good quality, or megabits per second. So perfect. So one more note on that. So as I said at the beginning of that video, I had, or that clip, I had the microphone hooked into the back. If we open up the file again, there's no there's no voice whatsoever because I was talking simultaneously with the recording. So there should have been talking here. But as you can hear, it's just the gameplay footage. So that's one thing to note. No microphone in. I will test on the next recording here that I'll do at 1080p, 30 frames per second, if it will record audio through just a microphone that I plug in that has no power. So I'm wondering if it's overpowering or if it just doesn't work at all. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up and then we'll jump over to there. I just tested this lavalier microphone. hooked it up to the back. In fact, it made things worse. Not only did we not get any audio from this, it completely corrupted the sound coming out and being recorded, both internal onto the SD card, and then I also tried it connected to the PC. So that audio out just doesn't work, or the audio in rather, the mic in just doesn't work at all. So this one's in 1920 by 1080, this one's 1920 by 1080, and I'm gonna hit record. And as you can see on the screen here, in the background, you can see that my desktop is also here. So let us hit record. Well, actually, it would help if I have this little thing plugged in there. So let's let it read for a second. And I'll hit record. And let's put something on that other screen. Put ourselves on there. Great. And that should be enough of a recording. I'm gonna hit 1080p just for good measure. I'm gonna record, hit stop, and then I'll hit the 1080p button and hit record again. And I'll move something over there. And that should be good. So end that recording. So what we hope to see is that when we open it up, it shows 1080p. So let's open up that SD card. Perfect, 1080p. So it does auto detect. If you're putting in a source that isn't 720p or isn't 1080p, it won't record in that resolution. So let's actually pull that up and look at how it is, if it's laggy at all. That does not look as smooth as it did actually. Here, I'll show you. So here's the playback of that video. And the refresh rate's not that great. That has to be at 30 frames per second. So let's go ahead and actually hit pause here and look at the information. So 1920 by 1080, frame rate 30 frames per second. So that solves the next mystery. What is the difference with 30 frames per second and the 60 frames per second and 720p and 1080p? So it's 720p at 60 frames per second and 1080p at 30 frames per second. So perfect. So let's talk storage. Let's talk about what works and what doesn't work, and what I have found out in the time that I've had it. So this is a internal hard drive and external enclosure, and this is USB 3.0. There's, I think it's a 256 gigabyte solid state drive in here. I don't think, so this doesn't work. It absolutely doesn't. You can try it, doesn't work. I just don't think this has enough power to run that, because this requires power to save. USB 3.0, this is a Lexar, the same thing that I used to actually upgrade the firmware, which is interesting to me that it will let me upgrade firmware but not record onto it. I've tried multiple times, and I have no idea why. This is in FAT32, which is the same format as actually everything that I'll show you. And I think that it has something to do with how much space is available. So this worked. This is the one that we did all the tests today on. So this is the 8 gigabyte SDHC from SanDisk, and it's into a little dongle adapter here. So SD to USB, 3.0 at that. This works by itself. Next, I'll show you another adapter, micro SD, but I have a SanDisk Ultra 32 gigabyte. Come on, focus. So this works. This is a SanDisk Ultra 32 gigabyte micro SDHC. This works into an adapter into the product, as well as micro SD USB adapter. And this is interesting. So I haven't gotten many USB drives to actually work. So this is a SanDisk Cruiser Glide 8 gigabyte. This works. This is a 2.0. And I wonder if it has something to do with size or if it has something to do with the generation it is. But those are the products that have worked for me. So that brings us to streaming and recording. So one of the things you can do with this version of the AGPTek is you can stream. And I've actually never streamed with this actual product. I've streamed mostly just computer games. So I plugged it in and it actually works right out of the box. I will show you my screen here on what I'm talking about. So I'm going to hide myself. And turning on the video capture device, which it shows as IT9910. Let's see. Oh, it's in the front. Shows as IT9910 capture filter. And it is capturing, as you can see here, what's going on the actual card. So I'm going to hit OK here. I'm going to turn off my display and turn on my face here because I want you to see the delay. And of course, you're not going to be playing from your capture. It's always going to be the direct output. But you can see, so he's already jumped and gotten hit. And it's just happening on screen right now. So you won't want to use your screen that's capturing on OBS, of course. No one does that. But you can stream. And I don't think that I have to actually stream to show you that, but I will, just so you can see it. So I'm going to hit start streaming. Oops, I think I might have done something wrong. Settings. Oh, right. So the way I have it set up is I have it going to an RTMP server so I can stream to multiple. So I have to just start this program real quick. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and go back and hit start streaming again. So look, as you can see, it's processing all the data. And let's go to our on Facebook Live here. And everything looks good. So we've talked about how to upgrade the firmware. And it's actually not hard. All you're doing again is just putting a file onto a USB or SD card and sticking it in, powering it on. Pretty easy. It's just not hard at all. Second thing we went through is finding out that the video recordings in 720p are at 60 frames per second. At 1080p, it's at 30 frames per second, so you have higher resolution. Though I do believe that 17 megabits per second is plenty. Microphone in doesn't work. I've tried it with a condenser microphone. I'll try it again with just a little lavalier mic just to see if it works. We opened it up in VLC, checked out the bit rate. Everything looks good there. In terms of time limits, with the new firmware, no 2-minute limit. It doesn't break it up into multiple files, so that's always good, especially for workflow. We talked about what you can use in terms of storage. Storage, you can't use external hard drives. You can't use large capacity 3.0 over like 100 gigabytes, which would be definitely helpful. I'll try and run another test. I think I'll maybe, if it's asked, I'll do a video specifically on just storage devices. we know 2.0 works, especially less than 32 gigabytes. We know that SD cards and micro SD cards work, especially ones by SanDisk. In fact, all of the ones that I tried, the SD card, the micro SD card, and the USB 2.0 were all from SanDisk. They just seem to have really good products. So if you're going to try that out, yeah, try SanDisk. We did a stream test to Facebook Live. I showed you just that it does work, that it uses an interesting name on the actual capture, but that's fine. But I hope that answered some of the questions. Yeah. All right. If you have any more questions, let me know.